This is a photo of me and my family standing outside our farmhouse where I grew up in southern Ontario, just outside of Toronto. Can you guess what decade it is? Notice my mother's amazing hair, my father's mustache, and my very cool brown corduroy overalls with the brown matching shirt. That's right, it's the 70s. This photo shows a normal family at the time. A mother and father, married once, with their children, typically 2 to 4 of them. Now I want you to think about what image you would choose to show a normal family today. I'm guessing that it would be quite difficult because our idea of family has really expanded. Growing up, I never really felt normal. I was very short for my age, 4'10" in grade 11. I was and still am a crazy fan of ice hockey. But when I was growing up, girls weren't allowed to play hockey. We were encouraged to do figure skating, which I did. And then on the weekends, I would play pond hockey with my brother and his friends wearing my figure skates. Isn't that kind of crazy? Because in 1998, women's Olympic hockey debuted. And only 17 years earlier, I was told you can't play hockey because you're a girl. In many families, finishing high school and going to university is normal. That wasn't the case in my family. So when I was planning to go to university, I never really felt normal, because no one in my family had done it before. You see, normal is about context. Heraclitus was an ancient Greek philosopher, credited with the idea that the only constant in life is change. If this is true, why do we crave normal as if it is the constant? I tried normal a few times, and, well, it didn't always go very well. Once I had the opportunity to go to a conference in New York City, and I was so excited because I had never been there before. I went with a group of teachers at the school where I was teaching, and the conference was in Manhattan, a few blocks away from Times Square. One day, there was a break in the conference schedule, and the women who were at the conference with me said that they wanted to go shopping because, well, we were in New York City. Well, you need to know something about me. I hate shopping. I find it really boring. But I wanted to fit in and do what women do when they go to New York City, so I said I would go. 20 minutes into Filene's Basement, a popular brand discount store, and I couldn't take it. I let the women know that I was leaving and that I would meet them back at the conference. Remember, I love hockey, so I took out my map, this was before smartphones, and I located Madison Square Gardens, home of the NHL's New York Rangers. I made my way there and walked through the entrance and was inspired by this iconic building and the energy of fans that had gone those same steps over the years. I wandered among the pillars that highlighted some of the greatest players of all time, and I was so excited to be there in this museum of sport and seeing it firsthand. And I was very glad to have left the shopping behind. I want you to think about what you think of as normal. It's often associated with a type or a standard, an average, something like that. Well, Jonathan Schall, an associate professor at the philosophy of science at Aarhus University in Denmark, did research into the history of the establishment of medical normal. And what he found was that the specific meaning of normal has special consequences, especially when it holds a privileged position in the world. So what that means is, when you establish normal, All other conditions and situations are measured against it, and they're determined to be normal or abnormal, acceptable or unacceptable. In 2016, Colin Kaepernick, an NFL quarterback, decided that he needed to do something to protest social injustice, especially police brutality and racial inequality. So he decided to take a knee during the national anthem. This created a maelstrom of reaction. He lost his job, I would say his career, as well as millions of dollars in endorsements. This action of protest wasn't seen as acceptable by many until 2020 and the death of George Floyd while being restrained by a police officer in Minneapolis, Minnesota. This photo from Associated Press shows the opening of the NBA bubble in August of 2020. Why is it that this is now acceptable, and some might say even normal, as game after game, this was the scene? Why is it now okay for players to take a knee, and those that chose not to were asked to explain themselves, only 4 years after Kaepernick's quiet protest? I want to go back to this idea of establishing normal. So remember how I wasn't allowed to play hockey? I finished my badges for figure skating, and I decided to do the certification course for refereeing hockey. This was in no way normal because there were no female referees anywhere in the surrounding towns where I grew up. But I really wanted to do it, so I did for several years. So when we think about creating this normal, we have to go back to the context. What is it about creating normal that makes us believe that it is comfortable? Why is it that as we search and crave for this normal, we maybe believe that things are better? Before things changed, they were better. So I want to take you back to that photo of that family from 40 years ago. It didn't allow for us to have the level of acceptance of what a normal family was that we now see today. I could play hockey today in an organized league. I would hope that a teenage female referee wouldn't hear, "You should be home in the kitchen with your mother, get off the ice," like I did in the early 1980s. When we think about normal, we need to consider that context. Just as we believe that normal is what we crave, we need to go back to this idea that the only constant in life is change. So if we're seeking normal life, it will be overturned again and again and again. Every time that we think we have found it, yes, it's normal, someone or something can come along and change it. And then what? The key to me is adaptability. We cannot become so attached to this idea of normal that we think life can never change, that it can never be as good when it does change. My inspiration for this is my father. In 2013, normal life for him was golfing on Tuesday with the men's league, walking around town, doing his errands, and meeting up with family and friends. And then he was diagnosed with a non-fatal form of ALS. You may have heard of that with the Ice Bucket Challenge. So he has PLS, which has and will continue to take away his mobility and his speech. This is my dad now, rocking his Brentwood swag. He's in his care home that's about an hour from here. I haven't been able to visit him since March. What you need to know about my dad is he is full of optimism. So as the things that he can do for himself diminishes, he focuses on what he can do. He calls himself a lucky man. Many elements of his life from 2013 have changed, but some things remain. He still uses his laptop for banking and some online gambling. He texts us every morning and evening to let us know that things are well. He follows sports, so much so that our Sunday morning video chats now are often cut short because football is starting. And he loves to debate US politics. So if he were to compare his life now to what some would say a normal life, there may be despair. But instead, there's gratitude and love. You see, humans continue to adapt to change, sometimes quickly and sometimes over a longer period of time. So if the constant in life is change, live who you are, and normal will develop around you. Thank you.